recently you posted and we're talking about imposter syndrome, and it's something that I've created content about it. I've released blogs about it in the past. I'm 6 years into being a managing director, and I still think 80% of all my decisions in every day, like just little decisions, I still have a great big dose of imposter syndrome built in there.
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on it? Like, is it a detrimental thing? Can it be a positive?
Ooh. I think okay, so firstly, I've suffered from imposter syndrome most of my most of my life. Like, I could be the number one salesperson in
Uh-huh.
any business and be like, "I'm doing a crap job, like, I'm not giving it my all, like, I'm a
That's me.
one-hit wonder, like, I'm gonna"
But
it's one
why
of
is
those
that?
things.
Why is that? I
Um
don't get it, because like I've literally sat in the same place and been like top of the leaderboard, massive jump before anyone, but they all know more than me.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I have that with what I'm doing as well. Like, I mean, I've been doing this for 3, 4 years now, and I actually do have a double degree in human nutrition and physiology. So, like, I actually kind of know what I'm talking about. But I think that for me, I can talk about from how I've sort of gotten into this, and I think it comes from that. I always got brought up thinking that you should always need more, you should always want more, and never be content. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes when
Mm,
it's grounded, this is just from my personal story. I'm just not
sure.
saying everyone else is having this experience, but it's like never be content and always be striving for more. And I think that for me, like it's easier for me to compare myself to what I'm not doing and what I'm not good at than what I am good at. And I really
Sure.
struggle with that. Like I can take a step back from everything and people like, you did a fantastic job. My immediate reaction would be, yeah, but I was speaking too fast, or yeah, but like I missaid something, or yeah, I dropped the F bomb in like a corporate like thing, and no one noticed and no one cared. But I'm sitting there just like everyone's gonna hate me from that. No one's gonna
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
trust
yeah.
me, and I think that I it's kind of one of those things that when with imposter syndrome, what I've learned is it's a loud voice inside my head that's just
Mm,
constantly going, "You're not good enough. Like, who do you think you are? Like, look at that person; they're doing so much better than you." And having the ability to actually take a step back and looking at it like it's a third person and going, you know what? I hear you. I'm gonna go. I'm going to focus on what I have done really good. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I actually enjoy what I'm doing.
mm.
People sometimes say that I'm helping them out. So, like, high five those people. Um, and I think that, does it help me? Sometimes I personally think it derails me, but some people it might keep them humble. Who knows? But I think imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people have it. I think a
Mm.
lot of people struggle with it. I think a lot of the time people are like, "Am I good enough?" And I think if when you hear these people like, "I'm really good at this, you should trust me," like, your immediate reaction is just like, "I don't know if I wanna trust you, mate." Like, I don't know.
Mm.
Not saying you shouldn't be confident, but I think that when it comes to imposter syndrome, I think that, sometimes you have to manage that voice that's telling you you're not good enough and actually,
Mm.
focus on the action part and have that ability to look at it like it's a third person rather than get really
I
in the
really like that.
conversation piece of it.
I really like that because I think that's something that I do, because I find imposter syndrome both debilitating
Mhm.
and rocket fuel. Like I
Mhm.
absolutely find it rocket fuel at times. And debilitating is when I'm just stuck in my own head and I can't get out of the point to think like, look at the data. You got 6 years of doing
Mhm.
something here. It's not in on fire. Maybe you're all right at it. Maybe some of the decisions you make, maybe you've learned some things over the last 6 years. And it's also difficult for us as well because it's social media. And 6 years ago, when we started this business and working in it, it's like the PT industry, or like the fitness industry. Every time that you find someone saying like, just never eat red Smarties, the next day it's the red Smartie diet, right? And and those people,
Don't
it's
get
like,
me
so
started on diets.
well, and I think social media is the same because every time someone's an Instagram expert or a LinkedIn expert or this expert or that expert, you can find another expert with just as many followers, just as many likes, who's like, never do that,
Mhm.
always do that, never do that. So I think, a lot of time we were going in and being like, oh, I have these opinions, but I don't know if it's right. So you had that kind of imposter syndrome built in. But
Yeah.
I know certainly for myself, like I use it to be like, well, if I know I'm gonna feel like that in a meeting, I'm gonna do an extra half hour. I'm gonna do an extra hour before I walk into that meeting,
Mhm.
so I'm over prepared. I've got all the tools
Mhm.
that I need to like be able to push that third person just far enough away,
Mhm.
just to okay, now they're out my eye line. It's not someone just staring at me while I'm trying to present to a room or whatever. Like if I can get them out the way, then I can do it. And almost knowing myself and, but from years of experience of going into meetings and being like, as it as imposter syndrome hits me halfway, and I'm like, oh, I should just not be here. Anyway, hi, nice to meet you. It's Jay from GL Pro.
Yeah.
But I know that I can use that now to put some stuff in place to actually walk into those meetings, walk into those situations where, at the very least, I can turn around to the horrible little guy on my shoulder and be like, "Shut up! I tried. Right?
Yeah.
I did everything I could. Leave me alone."
Yeah,
But
and that's a good way to be, right? Like being able to, I mean, to be fair, I personally try to over prepare for everything. Like I come up with things that people might ask me. And I have all of that. And I think sometimes the more you do it, the more confident you're gonna get, right? So you
mm,
actually like, if you get thrown a question, you can answer it okay. Um, but I think that I think imposter syndrome, like you said, can be a positive for you and it can be a fuel, and over preparing and making sure you're really prepared can be a really good thing. But
mm,
it's the derailing part that gets me. Like I can get what I always say is like I'm getting in my own way. That's
yeah.
usually when I'm like I have imposter syndrome. So when I talk to my fiance about it, I'm like I'm getting in my own way, and he actually gets that I'm sort of probably self-doubting, or I'm
Right.
thinking of all the things that could go wrong, or I'm thinking about why I shouldn't do something. Like right now I'm coming up with a framework for companies to help prevent burnout and help them manage stress within their organization. And I'm like, I don't know about this. What am I doing? It's like, dude, you've been doing this for years. Like, you go into businesses already and do that. Like, just giving me a framework for other people to help them. Like, what are you thinking? So
This is so in my wheelhouse. Why am I worried about it? But
I
it's
do
such
it
a
all the
weird thing,
time.
isn't it? And it
Yeah.
creeps up on you. And I honestly think it's an important conversation, because I don't know any successful business person or unsuccessful, who, but I just don't know anyone who doesn't have a healthy feeling of it. People have been in business,
Hmm.
been managing directors for 25 years, super successful, millions of pounds. I'm still like, what point did you realize you knew what you were doing? And they're like, hopefully tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. Maybe you just got to own this voice um go with it. And I think that like for me, my imposter syndrome doesn't actually usually fuel me. It usually renders me um inactive.
Just
So
that
it
roadblock. Yeah, yeah.
squashes me. Yeah, it does.
Mm,
Um, but in saying that though, like if you can twist it and you can reframe that, twist it sounds bad, but reframe that into actually helping you move forward and be productive, like that's not necessarily a negative thing if you can
mm.
always do that. But I
I
think
can't.
sometimes, yeah, but having that ability to take that step back and actually looking at your thoughts like it's
Mm,
like you're a third person, just
love
like
that.
watching that thought. It's like that's a nice thought. Like, and then actually another thing that I always say to myself and I tell my clients this as well. It's like, what's the story you're telling yourself and what are the facts? So actually breaking it all down, like write down all the facts and then look at all the story that you're telling yourself. And then when you can actually then you start paying attention to the story and you're like, hang on a second, I'm telling myself a story. Like that's not fact. That's not the truth. Let's actually now revert back to the facts, exactly what you said. It's like, here's all the data,
Yeah,
here's all the things that I've been doing. And I think sometimes being able to go, hang on a second, I'm walking down a path that I don't want to. What's the facts here? What's the story I'm telling myself? And it actually helps you get into that ability to look at yourself, look at the voice as a
yes,
third person. So that's
indeed.
another little trick as well.
But I love that, because what you're talking about is seeing the wood for the trees. Like, but that third person is the analytics we were talking about earlier. Like being able to have analysis and putting it in any way which you can get out of it. But I love that. I love it. What are the facts? What are you telling yourself? Because how often is that little voice in your head a liar who is saying all those things which aren't necessarily true, but you just worry about briefly? And but those moments of anxiety when all of those things hit in one big go, and you're like, yep, definitely can't do anything right. Oh no, right. Now I'm in this space, and how do
Mhm.
I spin myself out of it?